Guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Doug. I'm an online personal trainer and nutritionist on a mission to help guys to look better, to feel better, and to live healthier and happier lives. And today we are going to talk about how you can turn body fat into lean muscle. So if you want to pause this video right now, grab yourself a pen, grab yourself a paper. I can promise you this is going to be action-packed. This is going to be value-packed. You're probably going to want to take a few notes. So pause it right now, go grab those things, come back, join me, and you're back in the room. Okay, let's get straight into it. So guys, first and foremost, the first thing we need to recognize is that fat and muscle are two separate things. It's a very common saying, like, I want to turn fat into muscle, but we have to realize that one doesn't morph into the other. We have to effectively lose the body fat and build the muscle. Now, you can do both of those things at the same time, but my recommendation is to do the first one, lose the body fat, and then focus on building the muscle. Now, the advantage is, guys, is what I'm gonna talk you through today is gonna enable you to do both at the same time. However, what we're gonna do is we're gonna prioritize the fat loss, and then once we're happy, once we're in a lean state, once we're feeling good about our bodies, then we're gonna prioritize building the muscle. Because I say this to my clients all the time, guys, what's the rush? You don't win at fitness. You don't win this game. You're in this for the long haul. What you're really trying to do here is trying to create a healthier, happier lifestyle, okay? Because the body's all well and good, but once you've got it, you got to keep it, right? So what we want to do is we want to build that healthy, happy lifestyle, okay? So turning fat into muscle would be like trying to turn Coke into Fanta. You know, they come in effectively the same can. It's like a different color, different packaging, but it's probably made in the same place. But it's different ingredients, right? It's made up of different things. So what we have to do is pour out the Coke and then pour in the Fanta and repackage it a little bit, because they go into the same thing, right? The can is your body, effectively, but they're made up of different ingredients. Okay, so first and foremost, we need to understand the difference between fat and muscle. So essentially, they are different tissues. There are, the biological difference between what we call adipose tissue, which is our fat, and muscular tissue, okay? So fat cells store energy as something called triglycerides, okay? And while the muscles are made of protein. So our muscles are made of protein and our fat is made of triglycerides. And the distinction here is very important because, like I said, it kind of goes to show that you can't transfer a triglyceride into a protein. You also need to realize that there's a big difference between the two different types of body fat that you've got. So you might have heard of visceral fat and subcutaneous fat. So visceral fat is stored inside your abdomen. It's like surrounds your organs, your digestive system, all of this stuff, like things like your liver, your pancreas, your intestines, things like that. And it's considered more dangerous, more unhealthy, because it's more closely linked to, serious health issues like cardiovascular disease or strokes, or even certain cancers and stuff like this. And this is because the visceral fat itself actually releases inflammatory hormones, and those can affect your body's function. And the thing with visceral fat is you can't really measure it. You could have someone who's quite skinny, but they've actually got quite a lot of visceral fat. And then the second one is subcutaneous fat. Subcutaneous fat is what you can measure, okay? This is effectively like flab, okay? So this is what's found under your skin. And yeah, sure, it's not healthy, but the difference between the subcutaneous fat and the visceral fat is the subcutaneous fat is essentially stored energy, okay? So when you basically are in a calorie deficit, which is what we're gonna talk about in a little bit, your body starts to use that stored energy. And then when you use that stored energy, it disappears from you, right? That is your subcutaneous fat. So that's how we lose the body fat, guys, okay? And you can see your subcutaneous fat, you can measure your subcutaneous fat. What tends to happen is people who have a lot of subcutaneous fat also have a lot of visceral fat, which is why the two, for the most part, go hand in hand, but not always. Because you can have some people who are maybe on the younger side and they have faster metabolisms, who are skinny, but they don't exercise, their diet is absolutely terrible, and really, under the hood, deep down, they got a lot of issues, but they just don't even know it. And ironically, it's probably worse for them because you almost don't see it coming. Let's be real. If you're overweight, if you're fat right now, the fact is that you can see an underlying health issue coming in front of you. Like you have to look inwards and be like, okay, this is my responsibility. It's my body. I have to do something about this. And also I can see that if I stay like this, I am at a higher probability risk of developing these health conditions, right? I think it's pretty fair to say that we all know this stuff, but I understand there's a lot of complex psychology that goes into it at the same time. But I'm telling you all of this, guys, because I want you to really understand it. I'm big on the fact that knowledge is power. But knowledge isn't just power, knowledge is leverage, guys. Because if we can leverage the knowledge, if we can understand it, we can flip things in our head. What knowledge gives you, right, is it gives you logic. It gives you logic, rationale. And a lot of people, especially when it comes to their body, especially when it comes to their diet, they're wrapped up in a lot of emotion, right? And I get it. It's because it's from years of, potentially things like bullying, body shaming, all of this sorts of stuff. And as a result, people, they're very much, it's part of their identity. They see themselves and they think, I am a fat person. And then they associate that with making it harder on themselves. So like, oh, it's going to be harder for me to feel like this or to get this result. And the reality is, all of that is being constructed in your mind. It is no more difficult for you than it is for someone else, okay? And if we can understand that, and if we can leverage this knowledge and we can realize like, oh, okay, like I'm actually not special. I am just literally the same as everybody else. Here's the knowledge. Let me leverage that. You can flip that in your head and you can take it from being a weakness and turn it into a superpower. And what that means is you can start to get rid of the emotion from all of these decisions and you can start to apply some logic to them. And when you've got that logic, when you're not thinking with the emotional part of your brain, when you're thinking with the logical part of your brain, you're like, oh, okay, well, if I just turn up and if I do this, and I do it every single day, I'm gonna start getting results. And once you start getting results and when you start getting that momentum, you're away at the races, okay? But what I also wanna do is show you a pound of fat looks like. I'm gonna move and I'm gonna put it here because it surprises people. It surprises people just how much 1 pound of fat is. But if you look, it's kind of crazy, right? It's massive, right? Look at the size of the guy's hand relative to 1 pound. And that's 1 pound, not 1 kilogram. So a lot of the time people think like, oh my God, I need to lose 20, 30, 40 kilos. That's like 90 pounds of body fat. And some people do. But the vast majority of people, and I expect if you're the type of person who's watching this, you probably don't need to lose that much body fat. So I want to show you that on purpose to show you that what you want, the goal that you're reaching for, isn't as far out of your reach as you think it might be. And the other reason I wanted to show you that is there's another common misconception that muscle is heavier than fat. But if you think about it logically, right, 1 kilo of anything is 1 kilo. So 1 kilo of fat weighs the same as 1 kilo of muscle, right? The difference between fat and muscle is that muscle is far denser. So it can fit into a smaller space. So hopefully that gives you a good understanding as to like why you can't turn fat into muscle, what the difference between fat and muscle is, and the 2 types of body fat that you have got, the visceral fat and the subcutaneous fat. And hopefully at this stage, I've helped you to realize what you're trying to achieve, you're probably not that far away from, okay? All right, let's breathe, because that was a lot. We're 9 minutes in, that was a lot of information. Like I said, I told you, you wanted to grab a notepad, you wanted to grab a pen, there was gonna be tons of value, there was gonna be tons of information coming at you in this episode, in this video. So hopefully you've got some notes down. But now I don't just wanna leave you there. Now I wanna give you the knowledge as to what you need to do to take your first steps to lose some of that body fat, okay? First and foremost, we need to think about what your calorie number is. Now, what I mean by that is, what is your maintenance calorie number? Your maintenance calorie number, okay, it's different for everybody. And it's basically the number of calories that you need to consume just to stay the same, okay? Now, this is based on 4 physiological factors. So your age, your weight, your height, and your sex. And then also your activity level. So how active you are. Are you a sedentary person or are you a super active person? And there's levels in between there, okay? Now, you might be thinking, well, how do I do that? How do I calculate that, Doug? Super easy answer. And this is a very raw and rudimentary equation. There are more complex formulas to help figure this out, but this one's gonna serve you guys well. Take your body weight in pounds, not in kilos, and multiply that by 15, okay? Now that's gonna give you a rough and ready maintenance calorie number. But you don't want to maintain, right? You want to lose body fat, okay? So what do we wanna do? Well, we wanna subtract 500 from that number. So let's say you've done that calculation and it's come out and it's 2,500, very average, okay? You're gonna subtract 500, it's 2,000 calories. That is now your recommended calorie number. That is your fat loss calorie number. If you consume that many calories, 2,000, so 500 less than your maintenance, every day for 1 week, so 7 days, you are going to lose 1 pound of body fat. Really is that simple. There are 3,500 calories in 1 pound of body fat. 500, which is the deficit we've created there, times by 7 days in a week, is 3,500. So you can create a 3,500 calorie deficit in a week, which is going to help you to lose 1 pound of body fat. You might have heard all this before. You might have heard about calorie deficits, about maintenance calories, and you might have even heard the maths behind that. But if you haven't, then hopefully that's helpful. Even if you have heard it, maybe that's given it to you in a bit of a simpler terms, and hopefully it's helped you to realize this stuff. Because again, guys, we can give you all the information, but if we don't give you the context, it just goes in one ear and out the other, and no one applies this stuff, because you have to be able to leverage this knowledge. It's not good enough just to know the information. It's then what you actually do with the information, okay? So the first protocol is to start consuming in a calorie deficit, okay? So take your body weight in pounds, multiply by 15, take that number, minus 500, do that for a week, you will lose 1 pound of body fat. Now, first thing I need to say about this though, is a little caveat. It does not mean that if you stepped on the scales in 1 week, you are going to lose 1 pound on the scales, because your body weight and your body fat are two very different things. Now, it might be that you step on the scales after doing this for 1 week and you've lost 3 pounds, 4 pounds, 5 pounds. And you might be like, oh my God, it's amazing, it's amazing. That's great. And if you get that sort of momentum, I'm really happy for you. But a lot of people don't. And the fact of the matter is the reason that happens is because 70% of our body, of our mass, is water. We are basically just walking around as giant water bags. It's a bit of a weird image, I know, but that's basically what it is. And there's a big difference between losing water weight and losing body fat. What you will find though, is if you stick to this for maybe 4 weeks, is you will start and you track your weight regularly. I'd actually recommend you weigh yourself daily rather than weekly, because you can then take the daily average over the course of a week and see the trajectory. It's also going to help you to realize the daily fluctuations, particularly if you're a woman, in your weight. Women's weight fluctuates more throughout the month as they go through their menstrual cycle than it does for men, but both sexes' weights fluctuate on a daily basis. If you really want to get, if you work from home and you've got the ability to do this, I don't want you to get obsessive about this, but you could even weigh yourself in the morning and weigh yourself at night and see the fluctuations in the day, like intraday, in the day. Because you are eating food, you are drinking water, so you are putting more volume, more pounds, more kilos in your body. That is not fat, obviously, though, right? And what the goal here is to lose body fat, okay? So, we've talked about body fat, we've talked about how you lose it, we've talked about the deficit that you create, and we've talked about the difference between water weight and body fat, okay? So that's basically gonna be your diet. That's gonna be your exercise, your nutrition, what you're putting in, the calories into your body. Now we want to talk about the calories out, because of course, you have to remember, to create that deficit, what we can do is we can consume less, we can eat less, we can drink less. Don't forget there's liquid calories, guys. Alcohol, Starbucks, Costa, all this stuff, liquid calories. Or, I suppose, we can increase our expenditure, we can move more. And I often encourage people to do a bit of both, because what tends to happen is people go so hard on one, tends to be the diet. They eat like a bowl of lettuce a day and they're like, yeah, I'm losing weight. And they're like keeling over and dying on the floor, which we don't want. And then they don't move anymore, and actually they end up putting it all back on because they've got no energy in their system, guys. So we don't want that. What we want is we want you to create that 500 calorie deficit. You don't need to be cutting out carbs. We want you to be eating a high protein diet. We want you to be eating nice balance between protein, carbs, and fats. And I can do other videos about this if you are interested. Drop a comment below, let me know. I will do more videos about this. Guys, by the way, at this point, if you are enjoying the video, do me a massive favor. It takes you no time, it costs you nothing. Tap like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Much love. Back to the video. So eat a high protein diet, consume fewer calories. Now we want to talk about calories out. So the expenditure of our calories, okay? So we want to be moving more. Now, does this mean that you need to go out and do runs every single day? Lots of cardio, high intensity, No, not absolutely not. I've actually done another video about this literally 3 or 4 days ago around why you don't need to do cardio to lose weight. I'm not going to spoil that video, so go and check that one out if you want, but you don't need to be doing high intensity cardio to lose weight. Now, what I would encourage you to do, guys, is set yourself a step target. It doesn't have to be the arbitrary 10,000 steps a day. There's no secret sauce or magic that happens when you walk 10,000 steps a day. What I would do Pick up your smartphone, because every single person can do this. Look in your settings or your health app or wherever it is and see how many steps you averaged in the last week, assuming it was a normal week for you. Then what I want you to do is aim for about 20% more than that number. So, I don't know, very roughly, if you were hitting like 4,000 steps, you're going to be aiming for about 4,800, 5,000 steps, and so on and so forth. Basically, what I want you to do is I want you to step up towards 8,000 steps over a period of time. Now, if you're already doing 8,000 steps, great, go for 10,000. At that point, go for 10,000. But don't feel like you have to go from 2,000 to 10,000 and hit it every single day, because that's going to seem very overwhelming, very daunting. And we have to remember, like, step by step, guys. You don't just rock up and become the CEO of a company overnight, do you? You work your way up the ladder. It's the same with this stuff. You got to work your way up, okay? The other thing I want you to do, because I talked about we want to turn that fat into muscle, right? So we're going to have to start lifting weights, guys. There is no way around this, okay? We're going to have to start doing some resistance training. So you've got dumbbells, you've got barbells, you've got machines, you've got your body weight. Now, I would recommend, if you're brand new to this stuff, I mean, first and foremost, again, I've done a video about advice for complete beginners to the gym, so go and check that one out. It's on my channel, probably like 10 videos back, something like that. Maybe not even that, actually, maybe like 6 or 7 videos back. But I would start with your body weight and I would start with dumbbells. And then once you start to feel comfortable there, then move up to machines and save the barbells for last. Barbells are pretty complex. They're pretty heavy pieces of equipment. They can be a little bit dangerous, okay? So start with dumbbells, start with body weight. But basically what we're doing here, guys, is we're creating a deficit. We're creating a deficit through consuming fewer calories and moving a little bit more. But what this is really helping you to do, and it comes back to the title of this video, is to turn that fat into muscle. Because what you're doing all of this, doing all the stuff I've talked about here, is you're going to be losing that body fat, and at the same time, underneath that fat, because remember, the subcutaneous fat is underneath your skin, and the muscle sits underneath the subcutaneous fat. Underneath that fat, you are building the muscle. Now, as your body, for lack of a better word, eats the subcutaneous fat, and I know that's if there's any nutritionists watching, I'm sorry, I know that's terrible, language to use around this, but let's break it down. As your body starts to eat that adipose tissue, that fat tissue, that subcutaneous fat, you will start to see that muscle more. But what's not happening is you're not turning that fat, those cells, into muscle cells. That's not a thing. That's not possible, because like I said right at the beginning, they're made of 2 different things. Fat is made of triglycerides, hell of a word to say it. What time is it? 8:40 a.m. By the way, I don't know if you can catch the sunrise in the background. It's absolutely banging light here today. So you've got still can't say it, triglycerides, which is what fat is made of, and muscle is made of protein, okay? So you can't turn one into the other. So listen, we're coming up to 20 minutes. I'm gonna leave this video here. There's so much more I could talk about this, and I'll be honest with you guys, I've done tons of other videos, so go and check those out about all of this stuff, and hopefully you can get even more value there. But yeah, as I said, guys, if you would have enjoyed this video, please like it. Please leave a comment. The algorithm is loving comments these days. So leave a comment. Even if you think it's crap, tell me it's crap. I don't really care. And if you have enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel. I post every single day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.